Hey, hello everyone. Good day. It's Victory here and welcome to my channel. So today's topic is introduction to computer programming. All right, computer programming actually a nice skill that one should have, and the future is technology. Now is technology, so everything is going digital. So it's actually a nice idea to know how to program or at least have a skill in the tech industry. So today, we're looking at programming, the what is programming, types of programming languages, the difference between compiled and scripted languages, the meaning of SDKs and the meaning of APIs, and also we'll look at the last subject, types of computer programmers. So first of all, I'll go by asking what is computer programming. Computer programming, simply put, is the act of telling the computer to perform a specific task and as well instructing the computer on how that specific task is to be performed. The computer is more like a dummy. So you as a computer programmer, your main job is to be able to write an instruction on your computer to perform a particular task, probably over and over again. So we humans actually we can as well perform that task, but we due to fatigue, we always have this downtime in trying to achieve a particular task done, and also it must take us longer time. But when we write the instruction in the computer is able to run that instruction over and over again. So that is just the whole idea about computer programming. For instance, if you're trying to move from this point to this point, you may actually tell the computer to do that task to move from this point to this point, but still the computer will not be able to perform that task. So it's your job as a programmer to instruct the computer on how it should move from this point to this point. That's just the thing. um I'll also move further to list the type of programming languages, because for you to be able to program an app, you have to have different languages. Look at it from this angle. We have our laptop, for instance. In our laptop, we have different applications running in our laptop. In other words, we have different programs running on our laptop. So the programs we have installed on our laptops are there for some specific purpose. So that is the whole idea of programming languages. You cannot use Microsoft Excel to add a friend on social media, because Microsoft Excel was not built for that. And as well, you cannot actually make use of Microsoft Word to do some data analysis, because Microsoft Word was not built for that. But instead, you can make use of Microsoft Excel. So we have different applications on our mobile phone, and also we have different applications. In other words, we have different programs on our mobile phone and as well our laptops to perform different functions. So that is the same idea we have when it comes to types of programming languages. So we have different type of programming languages out there and their functions. Popular programming languages we have over there out there are Python programming language, JavaScript, Java, R, C, C Sharp, C++, Golang, and etc. So they are all out there for you to learn. Then you use it to perform a particular task or function. Okay, so as a programmer, or probably visioning to become a programmer, the first thing you should know is what programming language should I learn? Should be the first thing to come to your mind. What programming language should I learn? Then before you can answer that question of what programming language should I learn, you have to look for what task or what function do you want to build, or what problem do you want to solve. For instance, if you are trying to build an artificial intelligence, okay, an AI or a machine learning application, the type of programming language you should try to learn is Python, because Python actually was built for such kind of algorithm. If you are thinking of building an enterprise application development, you should probably look out for Java. If you want to build a rich interactive web application, you should look out for program language such as JavaScript. And as well, if you want to do application for server processing, in the sense that probably when a user try to submit a form and the form is then submitted to a database, and from the database an email is sent to the person who submitted the form or for a confirmation or stuff like that, then you should probably learn a program language such as a PHP. Okay, so those are well, that is one thing you should do to become or to start your journey in the field of computer programming. So that's what I'm trying to say that down to make you guys know. So we have different programming out there. We have PHP. PHP is for server-side programming language. We have JavaScript for interactive web interface. We have HTML for the structure of your website. If you're trying to build a website, it should be conversant with HTML and as well as CSS for styling. Then trying to build an AI and machine learning application, you should try to learn Python. Then if you're trying to also learn an application or try to build an application for data analysis, you should probably consider learning R. I'm going to create a video um, on the particular language you should learn for a particular problem you're trying to solve subsequently. So you could also leave a subscribe button to get the notification when I do that. All right, so next thing I'll be looking at now is compiled and scripted languages. Compiled and scripted computer language. Most of you probably must have come across the word compiled programming language and scripted programming language. Well, the word compiled programming language has to do with a compiler being able to interact or interpret a particular language or a particular code you write for your computer. You know, the computer don't understand whatever you write as a programmer. They only understand 0 and 1, on and off, on and off. That's the only thing that the computer understands. But when we have a compiler installed on our computer, then we can as well try to compile our language, which is in human readable code. Yes, we're going to write our language, that our programming, our code in high level language. Then we pass it over to the compiler. Then the compiler reads through the code and converts the code to 0 and 1s and give it to the computer, and then the computer will be able to interpret it and give us back a response. For instance, we have different compiler out there. One popular one is the Visual Studio. Visual Studio is an application that you can actually use to write some programs such as Visual Basic. You can write in Visual Basic and some other language out there. You write your code, then you write it in the compiler, then the compiler interprets your code and executes it and gives you the output. And why, when it comes to the part of scripted language, scripting programming language, it has to do with you writing your code or your program and then uploading your program to a server. So you write your code on a file, then you save it with probably with .php extension if you're using a PHP programming language, or the .js extension if you're using a JavaScript programming language. So you write your code in a file with the extension due to the type of programming language you're using. Then you upload it to the server. Then whenever a user tries to visit the server, probably with the domain name you create, the interpreter installed on the server will be able to run through your code and give you the required output of your code. So those are the difference between a compiler and an interpreter, or a compiled language and a scripted language. The compiled language is interpreted by a compiler, which is going to be installed on your laptop or your desktop or whatever you're using to program. Then the scripted language is run by an interpreter, which is installed on the server. Then it's going to give you an output when you visit that particular application on the web, for instance. And also we're going to be looking at SDKs and APIs. So SDK stands for Standard Development Kit. Standard Development Kit in the sense that Standard Development Kit is a tool that's being used by a programmer to create an application for a particular platform. A very popular SDK we have out there is Android Studio. So the Android Studio SDK was created for web developers to use just to create more application for Android OS. So that's a good example of an SDK. An SDK is a tool for programmers to create more application for a particular platform. So a very popular one out there is the Android popular Android Studio. Most developers make use of Android Studio to create application for Android OS. Then when it comes to APIs, what we call application programming interface, an application programming interface is more like a point where, for instance, big websites or big company out there such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram creates an API for we programmers to interact with their system, because they don't want to actually show us, or they don't want to actually let us know how the whole platform works because of security reasons, probably hackers and stuff like that. So they won't just release all the code to us to understand, but instead they're going to give us a point where we can actually interact with their programs. For instance, there's a popular one out there, the Twitter API, where you can use the Twitter APIs to probably create a post on your website. For instance, you could visit some blog, and the blog you visit, you will see some posts made by some users on Twitter on that blog. That stuff can only be done with the API provided to you by Twitter. So it's a point given to programmers out there to be able to probably fetch one or two information from a particular platform to another platform. So you're limited to what you are given. You can't go beyond what they want you to do. So that's what you mean by application programming interface. Then for the final last subject to talk about today is types of programmers. I just decided to break the types of programmers into three main types. The first one I call it the web programmers. Yeah, the web programmers. The web programmers are those that can actually decide to learn programming from their home, the comfort of their home. We can probably take a glass of coffee, then put it beside them and try to program one or two sites up, or web application that can be useful to people around the world or to their neighbors. Um, those are the first stage of web programmers. Actually, you don't really need a don't really need to go to an institution, or you don't need to or you don't really need to go to to any school, or you don't need to attend any school to be able to program for the web. You can just self-study. You can study by yourself, or you could attend one or two boot camp online, and you'll be able to practice web programming, and you'll be good to go. You're able to create cool websites that can actually fetch users' email, store into a database, and give a user response, stuff like that. Then the second type of programmer, I call it the programmers. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but that's what I decided to name it. The programmers is like there are this type of programmer that actually program more complex application. For instance, some of the application we have on our desktop, the Microsoft Word, the Microsoft Excel, those big applications we have on our laptops and mobile phones, for instance, uh, can be done by these programmers I'm talking about. And this you may necessarily need to attend. You may necessarily need to attend probably an institution for you to be able to attain this level of skill in the aspect of programming. And the last one, I think I called it software engineers. Yeah, these are the main programmers. Like they work on huge projects. Take for instance, that one program, they could program a whole operating system. So most times they work in groups. That they could program operating systems such as Windows operating system, program the software itself of iOS and stuff like that. So they actually work on clusters, work on cloud. When it comes to building platform for the cloud, they're the one that do those kind of designs according to software engineers. So that's I think that's the highest level of programmers you could see out there. Right, so this is where I'll end my topic, and I'll continue from here in subsequent series. So I'll just give you a final thought, a brush up of all what I've said from the beginning. So I just gave an introduction about what program is all about. Program is all about telling your computer or instructing your computer to do a particular task, and as well telling your computer how that particular task is to be performed. That's what a programmer is, or that's what computer program is all about. Simply put, telling the computer what to do and how to do it. That's the whole idea about programming. Then we also went down to talk about types of programming languages. And type of programming languages you have out there have that different function and functionalities and purposes. You understand me? So for you to be able to be a programmer, you must decide to choose a particular program language you want to learn for a particular task you want to perform. Yes, although being a programmer does not mean you are just restricted to one programming language. No, but at least you must start with a programming language. Because as time goes on, you may want to create a problem of you want to solve a problem that requires machine learning, and probably you are conversant with PHP. You can as well decide to learn Python so that you can use the AI, you can build an AI application. So you have to know what programming language is built for a particular thing so that you could learn that programming language and also you can apply that programming language to solve a particular problem. And also we will talk about compiled language and scripted language. So compiled language is being is interpreted or is it's read through by the compiler, and the scripted language is done by the interpreter, which is always on the server, and that's what we talked about that. And also we talk about the SDKs and API. SDK stands for Standard Development Kits, and API stands for Application Programming Interface. We talked about the types of programmers out there. We have web programmers, which you can learn from the comfort of your home. You don't necessarily need a school degree to learn that. I'll talk about the programmers where which you may necessarily need to go to school to acquire such kind of level of programming. Then we have the software engineers, which is the highest level of programmers, where you have to um, work on big clusters projects such as the cloud project and cloud, cloud technology. I also talk about that subsequently in my series of YouTube. And they work on clusters project and as well create operating system for different devices out there. I'm Richard the Tech Guy. Do have a very nice day and don't forget to subscribe.